B.F. Skinner's concern is that classroom reinforcement is presented inconsistently and often only after a long day. Skinner developed Program Instruction or PI, which made use of Skinner's teaching machine, a box containing a long roll of printed material that a student could gradually roll past a display window. Standard features of PI. It is presented through the series of discrete segments or frames. The first frame presents a small amount of new information and poses a question about it. The student responds to a question and then moves to the next frame. The frame provides the correct answer to the question, presents more information, and asks another question. The student continues through the frames, encountering new information and asks, responding to questions and checking new answers. Key principles. Active responding. The student must make a response in each frame. Shaping. Instruction begins with information the student already knows. New information is broken into tiny pieces and instruction proceeds through a gradual presentation of increasingly difficult pieces. As the successive pieces are presented and questions of increasing difficulty are answered, mastery of the topic is gradually shaped. Immediate reinforcement. Shaping proceeds so slowly that students almost always make a correct response. In this way, students practice appropriate rather than inappropriate responses, and so the probability of reinforcement is quite high. Each correct answer is reinforced immediately in the form of feedback that it's correct. Self-pacing. Students proceed through the program at their own individual rates, ensuring that all students are eventually successful in mastering the material. Linear program. All students proceeded through exactly the same sequence of frames in exactly the same order. Branching program. Progresses in larger steps than a linear program. Each frame presents more information so that error rates in responding are higher. A student who responds incorrectly is directed to one or more remedial frames for further practice on that part of the lesson before being allowed to continue with new material. Major advantage of a branching program is that it provides remedial instructional frames only for students who have difficulty with a particular concept or skill. Other students can move on to new material without having to spend time on the practice they don't need. Computer Assisted Instruction, or CAI. Computer software can automatically present one or more appropriate follow-up frames for various student responses, and it can include videos, animations, and other graphics to enhance students' understanding of new material. Furthermore, the software can record and maintain ongoing data for individual students. For instance, how often they respond correctly to questions and how quickly they move through the program. Mastery learning. An approach to instruction in which students must learn the material in one lesson to a high level of proficiency before proceeding to a subsequent lesson. Students can truly master school subject matter if they are given sufficient time and instruction to do so. This is based on the concept of shaping. A relatively simple response is reinforced until it's emitted frequently, that is, until it's mastered. Then a slightly more difficult response is reinforced, and so on until eventually the desired terminal behavior is acquired. Components of mastery learning. Small, discrete units. Course content is broken up into a number of separate units or lessons, with each unit covering a small amount of material. A logical sequence. Units are sequenced such that basic concepts and procedures, those that provide the foundation for later units, are learned first. The process through which the component parts of the subject matter are identified and sequenced, going from simple to more complex, is called task analysis. Demonstration of mastery at the completion of each unit. Before graduating from one unit to the next, students must show that they master the current unit, for example, by taking a quiz on the unit's content. A concrete observable criterion for mastery of each unit. Mastery of a topic is defined in specific, concrete terms. For example, to pass a unit on adding fractions with the same denominator, students might have to answer at least 90% of quiz items correctly. Additional remedial activities for students needing extra help or practice. Students don't always demonstrate mastery on the first try. Additional support and resources are needed. Personalized System of Instruction, also known as PSI or the Keller Plan. This is used primarily at the college level. This is used primarily at the college level. Features. Emphasis on the individual study. Most learning occurs through independent study of such written materials such as textbooks and study guides. One-on-one tutoring provides additional assistance when necessary. Unit exams. An examination on each unit assesses students' mastery of the material. Students receive immediate feedback about their performance. Supplementary instructional techniques. Traditional group instructional methods are occasionally provided to supplement the material that appears in a textbook or assigned readings. These group classes are optional but are intended to motivate and stimulate students. Use of proctors. Proctors, usually more advanced students, administer and score exams and tutor students on topics with which they are having difficulty. School assessment practices. Backward design. Planning of one or more end-of-instruction assessments precedes rather than follows. Formative assessment. Assess students' progress not only at the end of instruction but also throughout instruction. They do it by looking for behavior changes, perhaps in the form of oral responses, written documents, or scores on short quizzes. Rubric identifies criteria for assessing different aspects of students' current abilities relative of various levels of performance. Summative assessment, conducted at the end of instruction to determine what students have ultimately learned. High-stakes tests. Summative tests, usually paper and pencil ones, that influence decision-making about students' promotion and graduation, teacher salaries, school funding, and similar matters.